writing, blogging, video making, YouTubing, they all seem like they'd be a perfect fit for a cruising life. And the current array of YouTubers who are making a go of it sure make it look like it can work for others. And I will say that, yes, storytelling, whatever medium you choose, could fit very nicely into your life afloat. It's highly portable profession. It can fit the pace of cruising. If things go well, you should have lots of spare time that you could fill enjoyably by being creative. You're going to have lots of new ideas as you get out cruising, ideas that other people might be very interested in. And the nice thing is the equipment you need to write or to do videos is amazingly affordable. And of course, the best thing is, if it works, it could extend. You could earn the money to extend your cruising kitty. Of course, there's always the other side of every coin. And one of the things you have to be aware of is that writing and blogging, compared to the hours you're going to put into it, will be relatively low paying. And this is the reason I think more people with smaller budgets, often related to smaller boats, continue to write once they start. It's because someone on a $1,500 budget is going to be more excited about getting $800 or $900 for an article than someone on a much bigger budget. So you've got to find that you got to start out not expecting to make a lot of money, and only if it works long term do you start earning substantial, nice amounts. You're never going to get rich writing for yachting magazines. YouTubing, very rare that you're going to make substantial amounts, but it could be enough to help extend your cruising kitty. Well, it's harder nowadays to find the spare time, because with the addition of email, easy radio communications, your time can be filled right to the brim on the boat. And it's that spare time that really does help you be more creative. And a final negative that I think is worth considering, nowadays, in order to be a successful writer, blogger, YouTuber, you have to become a brand. You have to have an internet presence. And not everyone is comfortable with presenting themselves in such a public way. And once again, it takes time, that spare time that you'd look forward to use for your writing and your blogging and your video making. I'd like to share some ways to tilt the odds of being a successful writer, blogger in your favor. I've done a bit of research over the past few years to add to this program. 5 years ago, I spent time mentoring Riley and Ilana, who have the La Vagabond YouTube channel, one of the most successful channels around. So I learned a lot from that experience with them. I've also worked with Desiree and Jordan from Project Atticus, or Sailing Atticus YouTube channel, and I'm still in close contact with them, so I can give you some insights I've learned from those. I've interviewed several editors, magazine editors, video editors for this program. During my later years, I worked as a publisher, and what I learned as a publisher, especially in publicizing books, getting the information out there, will add further insights to this program. But what I've learned from all of my interviews and with talking with various writers and editors is that there still is definitely room for good sailing storytellers, no matter what medium you choose. There's more outlets than ever before. Especially now, magazines have to have both an online presence and their paper presence. There's more online magazines that are just online. people are looking for blogs. Once there's a few blogs, people say, oh, that's interesting. They search for more. Ebooks and self-published ebooks even have broadened the market for sailing readers. There are more nautical titles out there and more of them selling well. Even audiobooks are starting to help the sailing writer. I was quite shocked when I had a chat with John Kreshmer about his books. He told me that Sailing a Serious Ocean sold not only 60,000 copies in print, but 10,000 audiobooks. Which, of course, when people enjoy a sailing audiobook, they look for more sailing books to hear. And a surprising number of YouTubers, as you know, are earning sufficient funds to make it well worth their while. So the first step, no matter what medium you choose, is learn how to tell a story. So I'd like to share a bit of history with you. I am an accidental writer. I had no interest in writing when I was young. I wrote a few letters to my mother when we first started sailing. But 2 years into our voyaging life on Little Seraphin, we were in the Panama Canal Yacht Club heading out to the boat when a downpour started, so real tropical downpour. So we retreated to the bar, and I noted a magazine, started reading this yachting magazine, and in it was actually a magazine called Boating. There was an article by Arthur Beiser about the perfect cruising yacht. And in the article he stated that the perfect cruising yacht was 57 feet long. He told all about his, and then he said, a few Spartan souls have been known to go cruising in boats as small as 30 feet. Now I got furious because I look out in the anchorage and there's our 24-foot Seraphin. The biggest boat in the anchorage was 35 feet at that time. There's only 14 boats in the anchorage that year. And I sat down and wrote a very strongly worded letter to the editor of the magazine, disagreeing with the article. They called it a nasty letter. Well, I thought nothing of it until 3 weeks later I got a telegram, and all the telegram said was, prove it. Larry said, you know, Lynn, you need something extra in your life. Cruising has become too easy for you. You need something to keep that brain of yours working. Write an article. Well, I started doing some research and putting ideas down on paper. And a few months later, we were in Cartagena, Colombia, tied up at a yacht club that at one end was actually an old fort, and there was a restaurant in the fort. And the owner of the restaurant invited us to move our boat over right in front of it because he was a British expat and he loved the British look of our boat. We became friends and he invited us for dinner in his restaurant and sat there next to the cannons looking down on our boat, and his wife arrived and Dennis introduced us to Penny Lerneau, who, he told us, was the head of United Press International for South America and had written a few very interesting books. One of the first books on Helen Kluber-Ross, who started the hospice movement. And so Larry embarrassed me by saying, my wife's going to become a writer. Well, I kicked him under the table. I think everyone noticed. I kicked pretty hard. But Penny generously said, if you sail over and anchor near our house, come ashore tomorrow, I'll give you a writing lesson. I couldn't resist. We got over there, rowed ashore, walked up to her house. She said hi. She handed me a notepad, a pencil, and she said, write a story about something that happened when we were all at dinner last night. And I said, oh, how long should it be? Or what should... She says, no, just write something. And she walked out of the room. So I sat there thinking about it, and I came up with what I thought was a story, and wrote for a while. She came back in an hour later, and she said to me, show it to me. And I started to get up and go over, and she says, no, just show me the pad. And I did. She says, okay, now get rid of half of it. And she threw me a red pen. And when she came back an hour later and said, show it to me, I knew she meant just show her the pages, and I did. She says, now you've learned all you really need to be a successful writer. One, there's a story in everything that happens in your life. You just have to find the story. And two, half of what you put down that paper probably doesn't give anyone the information they need or is only interesting to you. And it's up to you to power it down and show the people what really matters. Well, I used those lessons many times in my life, but that first story I wrote did sell, and the check I got from it, I bought my first portable typewriter, and the rest is history. 12 books later, some videos, and an amazing life that but it took 5 years before more than half of our cruising funds came from my writing and the stories that Larry added. And talking to people nowadays, it seems the same holds true. It's very rare that anyone, YouTuber, book writer, blogger, starts earning substantial funds from the storytelling they do until they've been at it for a few years. Of course, since I wrote those first articles, there's been a lot of changes in the sailing world and the publishing world, the general writing world, mostly due to technology. But the more changes I see, the more it seems the basics of getting your work noticed remain the same. So although I'll start with writing for magazines, print and online, almost all the guidelines that I'll suggest hold true for blogs and videos and YouTubing. And for those thinking of creating a YouTube channel, you should still consider writing articles because it's one of the best ways starting to build an audience. And one thing I'll say is, nowadays fewer people are taking the time to write for magazines, and editors and readers and viewers are all desperate for good storytelling. And even more important, they're desperate for storytellers who can help them learn something new. Editors, they're looking for more destination pieces than they were even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, because it's really getting harder to find people who can write a good story about just cruising, simple cruising, and especially about local cruising. So I'm going to talk about what editors consider good stories as we move along.